Is issuing a stark warning to Israel that time is running out. The president says that if Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't sign a U.S.-backed peace agreement with the Palestinians, it could lead to some serious security questions down the road. The president's comments come as the two leaders are set to meet at the White House just over an hour from now, and as the United States finds itself embroiled in a tense diplomatic standoff with Russia.
The prospect of a two-state solution to the Middle East peace process may have grown dimmer today. Correspondent Doug McKelway on the unfortunate timing of a visit by one of America's strongest allies.
A vigorous handshake, warm greetings, and an expression of hope for Mideast peace seemed designed to tamp down reports of a prickly relationship between President Obama and Prime Minister Netanyahu.
It's my belief that ultimately it is still possible to create two states, a Jewish state of Israel and a state of Palestine, in which people are living side by side in peace and security. But it's difficult, and it requires compromise.
The reality suggests a tougher road ahead. In a Thursday interview, the president said that a Mideast peace deal may hinge on a pullback of Israeli settlements in the West Bank. But Prime Minister Netanyahu has learned hard lessons from earlier withdrawals.
When we look at what we got in return, it's been scores of suicide bombers, thousands of rockets on our cities.
His comments underscore the difficulty of Secretary of State John Kerry's framework, a 9-month negotiation launched last July, which now threatens to extend beyond a late April deadline.
The reality is that the personal relationship between Netanyahu and the president has never been all that good, and there are now significant policy differences.
Another policy difference, President Obama told Bloomberg that Palestinian President Abbas is, quote, sincere about his willingness to recognize Israel and its right to exist. 3 days later, Abbas said recognizing Israel is, quote, out of the question. Also ratcheting up Israeli fears, the Obama administration's passive response to provocations by Russia, Syria, and to Iran's quest for nuclear capability.
The notion somehow that the president, beyond talking tough, is going to have much leverage, particularly now, when everyone seems to say no to the United States without cost or consequence, strikes me as not in the cards.
I will do whatever I must do to defend the Jewish state.
A stronger dose of Israel's resistance to the peace plan came in mid-January when the Israeli defense minister called Kerry messianic. He was strongly condemned for those comments, but his words convey the difficulty ahead. Brett?
Doug McKelway at the White House briefing room. Doug, thank you.
In public, it was all smiles at the White House between the U.S. president and Israeli Prime Minister, with Barack Obama stressing he thinks peace is still achievable.
It is still possible to create two states, a Jewish state of Israel and a state of Palestine, in which people are living side by side in peace and security. But it's difficult.
But just hours before this meeting, the U.S. president, in an interview with Bloomberg View, says he will push Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to make peace. Obama said he would ask the question, if not now, when? And if not you, Prime Minister, then who? And as Palestine gets greater global recognition of bodies like the United Nations, the U.S., while continuing to support Israel, says it will be harder to avoid the country's isolation. Obama is quoted as saying, if Palestinians come to believe that the possibility of a contiguous sovereign Palestinian state is no longer within reach, then our ability to manage the international fallout is going to be limited. The push for a peace deal now comes after Obama made a direct appeal for peace to Israeli youth during his visit there last year. There is a feeling here in Washington that this may be the last chance in decades of peace. If U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry's efforts fail, there could be another Palestinian uprising. Anger at continued Israeli settlement building on disputed land and a feeling that Israel may be just playing out the clock on talks is heightening tensions. The deadline of April 29th for a framework deal is fast approaching. But Israel's Prime Minister says Israel's security must be guaranteed.
The only peace that will endure is a peace that we can defend. And we've learned from our history, Jewish history, but I think from general history, that the best way to guarantee peace is to be strong.
As the US pushes Israel on Middle East peace efforts, it is also trying to ease concerns over Iran. Israel is skeptical over US talks with Iran's new president and the interim deal over Tehran's nuclear program, both causing tensions, as well as last year's US decision not to use force against Israel's neighbor Syria after a deadly chemical weapons attack. While US President Barack Obama stressed the strong bonds that holds Israel and the United States together, these behind-the-scenes words are the first indications that potentially the US President sees the Israeli Prime Minister as an obstacle to peace in the coming months. Nathan King, CCTV, Washington.
More on President Obama's comments to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's bring in Middle East expert Matthew Brodsky. He's a former director of policy at the Jewish Policy Center here in Washington, D.C. Welcome back to the show, Matt.
Thank you.
Do you think now is the right time to get a deal done? And if not now, then when?
Okay, let's be clear that the reason that this is happening right now and that Netanyahu is meeting with President Obama at the White House is the AIPAC conference, which is bringing together between 10,000 to 14,000 supporters of a strong American-Israeli alliance. And that's why he's here now, and he's speaking before that organization. So that is for the timing. Otherwise, yes, it does sound a little bit odd that with everything going on in Syria and Iran, and especially Ukraine, that we're having this type of focus on the matter right now. As far as extending the peace talks, sure, though I'm sure will continue, but he's bringing the pressure to bear on Netanyahu in Israel for a wide variety of bizarre reasons that are not realistic, instead of bringing the pressure to bear on the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, who will not recognize Israel as a Jewish state and still would like to see the return of 4.7 million refugees into Israel, which is basically a non-starter for any negotiations anyways. So the wheels can continue to spin, but that explains what the timing is right now, and there's no reason to get one's hope up in the clouds about this.
But I want to get your input on this timing, because he is in town for a conference, but U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has been going to the Middle East. He's been there a record number of times just in the last year. So this has been something that's been going on and on and on. Why not now? You have these two leaders in the same room. Can't they work something out?
If the bottom position of the Palestinian Authority was that it would accept an Israeli state that was Jewish next to it, then there would be peace tomorrow. But unfortunately, if the bottom line hasn't changed for the Palestinian Authority since 2008, when they rejected a peace plan brought by Israeli Prime Minister Olmert, if that hasn't changed, then there's not much to discuss. I mean, in a negotiation, there needs to be a sense of compromise. I believe Israel has made that compromise. And if this were just about territory, just about borders, they could have an agreement that would take care of those issues, and it would be roughly 4.6% of territory in the Palestinian Authority that would go to Israel, and Israel would have land swaps, and it would keep really people living in towns in the Palestinian Authority there. It's not a territorial issue, unfortunately. It's about Israel's right to exist, and since that hasn't changed, it's difficult to see how that happens moving forward.
We have about 30 seconds left, so time for one last question. Could the words that Obama has said, Israel could find itself isolated internationally, could that happen? And if so, what then? Well,
it's bizarre that he would say that to the Israeli Prime Minister, that they would be more isolated in the world. There's a campaign to boycott and divest from Israel. It unfortunately puts the pressure on Israel to make more concessions that it does not need to make, and absolves the Palestinian Authority from grappling with their own mythology. And unfortunately, this is going to be counterproductive, and it doesn't make Israel want to make more concessions. When Israel feels that the international community is behind its back and will help it be secure in a peace deal, then they move forward.
He's really putting himself out there. All right, Matthew Brodsky, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much for your insight.